Welcome, everyone, to the ATC podcast. My name is Richard Lepis. I am the founder and CEO of Ahead of the Charts Trading. Upon tons of requests, we have an interesting guest that we're going to bring on. We're kind of flipping the script a little bit today. He is our student liaison. He is our chief marketing officer. He is, firstly a day trader, but the accolades of what he does at ATC can go on and on. So it's my pleasure to welcome David Torres.
Rich, it's a pleasure being on this side. It's different. I'm usually on that side, interviewing individuals, so it's going to be interesting.
I know,
So,
and I was just, we were talking about this before, but I'm just as interested to be doing this as most of our students are going to be. Very
yeah,
interested to see where we're going to be able to go.
yeah, and I don't personally like look back really at all. It's not something that I spend time doing, right? Maybe, I don't know, just maybe it's me, maybe it's just human nature or what have you, but just looking back and reflecting on where you've came from or where you've been and how that's shaped you, it's not something I do too often. It's more of, looking in the moment and then forward.
Yeah, and sometimes it could be just as important to kind of go back and get those kind of roots of where this all the success actually came from.
Yeah, and I'm
And that's
excited
what
to really share my story as well to for those to really understand, who I am, my personality wise and history. And
yeah, so that's my first question for you. We want to know about your story.
yeah,
So first, what made you start trading?
I mean, I think before trading, there's a foundation of who I am as a person that really ties into, the trader, the Dave trader, everyone sees in the content, everyone sees in posts, and
Hmm.
so I grew up in Washington State. My family is first generation, so I don't come from a prestige family or wealth. I mean, I've seen, the low of the low, growing up. I didn't have any great education at all. I mean, the schools that I went to, I mean, I saw people getting shot in front of like my house. Like it was, I mean, I grew up in a pretty bad neighborhood. I mean, Washington State, I mean, most people don't think of anything about Washington State. When people think of Washington State, they think of DC. Nobody thinks about that, or they think of, Seattle, what have you. But, I
Hmm.
didn't grow up in the nicest neighborhood. Grew up just, having a proper education. But one thing I did grow up with was just, you know, a dad that really persevered and just, he was an entrepreneur from the start, and I was just on his hip the whole time, and I just saw him create something so beautiful. And ever since I was a kid, I just, envisioned something greater for myself and my family, and that's just who I am to my core. I'm definitely like family oriented, loyal to the T.
Like your dad did.
Yeah, I mean, he has a home office, and I'm sitting in my home office right now, so it's all coming full circle. I'm 25 years old. I'm not, I'm still in, youngers, mid 20s. Feeling older, but still young to a lot of people.
Change.
But yeah, so from very early age, I was very diligent about, having success, and I think I was, not the brightest individual. I mean, they even wanted to put me in, special classes because I had learning disabilities, which is interesting. Growing up, telling teachers telling me that I had learning disabilities, I think it motivated and drove me to really surpass, a lot of my classmates later on. Maybe I was a late grower or bloomer or what have you, but being
Mhm.
told early on that I couldn't learn was one of the biggest factors for my success in this current moment. you know. But like about my personalities, I've always been an observer. I've never been an extrovert. I've never been an introvert. I was never the class clown or the life of the party, but I was never that shy kid in the back. I was always in the middle. I observed people, their actions, what they did, and why they did it. And I always felt like I knew what people were thinking before they even said it. And I always looked behind the intentions of people. So I would definitely classify myself as more of a on that in the middle of the scale of extrovert introvert. I'm definitely a lot more of on the empath side, so I can feel emotions very very heavily. It's not that I don't feel emotions. I feel like I feel more than most people,
Mhm.
which is interesting being a trader. I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
very interesting.
Yeah. So as a trader, I've had to really dial that in for myself. And we'll hit that a little more as we hit the trading questions. But just like that's who I am. And then I ended up, going through education, really self-learned. Like I never had the teachers. I can't go back and look at a teacher that, changed my life for the good. It was more of the things they told me that I couldn't do. And I went out and did them myself. I was
Give you
always
that
self-driven.
motivation.
No one had to tell me, wake up and do things. Like, my parents gave me the freedom, like, for the freedom they gave me for the age I was at, I would do whatever I want, go wherever I want, and they had the ultimate trust in me, just because like my motivation thoughts were in the right place with, creating something and being successful. And in high school, I was very studious the whole time. I was obsessed with studying, obsessed behind the books. early on, I mean, I didn't even know what I wanted to do. I went from wanting to be a doctor to a lawyer to what have you.
Hmm.
And then, ended up getting a full ride to Washington State University. So I'm a Coug, the local state university. Ended up getting a full ride, completely paid for. So I finessed the system really. So they paid me to go to school, and that's one way I funded my trading account is because I got so many scholarships that I ended up taking a lot of money home, and that ended up allowing me to fund a trading account that I have. I mean, it's a foundation of where my success is today. So literally, like me applying for the scholarships and being studious and just putting my head down, gathered me the funds to be able to create the day trading account that I have now. So that was awesome. That was interesting.
Yeah, it's
Studied
interesting. One thing that just kind of sticks out is that you went from deciding to be either to be a doctor or to be a lawyer. So you really never had normal goals. You
No.
weren't looking to get the union job that you really was always something almost over and above.
Yeah, and I remember, like, I mean, I come from a generation where we're not quite, you know, stuck on tablets, but we did have them back then. They were just coming out. So I was also like adventurous. I was out there, having to be, communicate with other people and not just be on a tablet or a phone. But I did transition to that young generation that had, information and Google right at their hands. So, I was always just researching everything. Self-taught is like one thing that was like biggest attribute of mine is like I don't need a professor to tell me how to learn. I don't need someone to tell me how to learn. If you put the material in front of me, I'll figure it out. And that's just my personality. That's always how it has been. But yeah, I didn't really know what I wanted to do going into university. I bounced around a ton of things. Ended up, joining like the honors college of my Washington State, and it was interesting. There was a lot of odd characters. I would think there's a lot more of I think once you get into those individuals that are very studious and just all academic based, they're not as social or they're just a little odd. So I was in the
Bit more
classroom.
introverted.
Yeah, a lot of introverts in that class, and I was just sitting around, and it was interesting education. So I didn't take too many normal classes while I was at university. I almost felt like I was in a trial or something. I was just like, what am I doing in these classes? But ended up finding finance and economics. Loved that. I loved economics, just the structure of the economy and how that worked. And then I also liked finance for the stock market part of things. So where I started trading was at the university. They had a portfolio class, and it was a group of students, and we got to manage. It was like a $3-4 million portfolio, and we each got to have our own little sector, and then we'd have stock pitches. I had ended up having a real estate sector, so I was, analyzing REITs and other things, but I was also helping other students in their sectors as well. And we had Bloomberg terminals and everything, so I was always sitting behind a terminal, like analyzing stocks, everything to do with fundamentals. That's where I started. It was really truly fundamentals. It wasn't more on the tape reading side or the trading side at all.
Hmm.
And then I ended up getting going to a trip to New York during my senior year, to do a lot of networking with Goldman Sachs, different firms, just to see what that world was like, because that was the direction I was on. It was either, trading or some sort of investment side of the field. And I just truly did not like it. We were networking, and I could see right through the people that were out with us at the, cocktail nights and hours. They just did not look happy. And I was just like, you know, these people,
Even after the drinks.
yeah, this guy just got done with a 12-hour day at Goldman Sachs, and I gave me his card and everything, and I just looked him in the eyes and just, I was like, this
Ah, his soul's gone.
is this my path?
Hmm.
And then I came back home and I revalued my whole life. And then I was looking for trading, online like everybody does, how to trade, looking videos, chat rooms, what have you. And then I came across ATC for, is it fate? Maybe, but it was just some luck, really. I mean, I was just looking at hashtag on Instagram, found ATC, blindly followed into the chat room, and then I was evaluating all the chat rooms that I had at one point and seeing who I thought had the best education, and it came down to ATC and tape reading. It was just you had morning meetings, you had all these different types of content where you would break down a trade based upon prints before the chart even showed, and that to me was just insane. Like obviously didn't know anything about it at that point, but the fact that you could look at prints and then set a high percentage game plan based on the prints, it blew my mind. It really did. And then the other chat rooms I had were chart analysis. Oh, if this holds here, expect to bounce to here, and trying to make trades off something like that just never worked for me. I'm like, what? This guy's making up shit.
Yeah. Well, you notice that a lot of the schools out there, they're marketing companies. They got great marketing, they get you in, but they don't really get you to where you need to be. It's not really about the student, it's about how many students actually come in.
They'll do everything to sell you a gold package, but when it comes to learning, they don't care.
Now, once you pay, you don't got to worry about you.
And that's the difference with ATC. I just saw a family here. Like I saw, Doug, Nitesh, Donna, and just all the individuals that have been around a long time. It just seemed like a family and of successful traders. I mean, they were calling out trades and they were, explaining the trades out before they happened. So I mean, that was enough convincing for me. It wasn't necessarily the marketing side because there was no marketing side. The marketing side was very lackluster, and that's not what attracted me. It was more of, the prints and, the to me it looked like data at first, but then looking, step further studying it, it was obviously a lot more into that and its stories and following the market makers and a lot more into that. So I had my dorm room, had a bunch of monitors, ended up, so my senior year, I was pretty much done with all my courses for my degrees. I was the type of person to take 6, 7, 8 classes in one semester. People thought that was, people would take half of that. So I would take double most people were. And by the time my senior year came around, I had 2 classes and they were for fun. I was taking a golfing class and then like just something, you know, on the side just for fun. And then I ended up, purchasing the ATC course on my own dime beforehand and ended up, taking your courses. And that was a class of mine. Like I literally had it in my schedule at my university for like, it wasn't a credit, but it was a class. And
Hmm.
so I was studying there, came to a couple on, so right as I graduated, came to an onsite in Miami. That was the first onsite I came to, and it was honestly life changing. And just seeing Doug and Nitesh and all them, just be able to explain the same thing you're explaining and being successful traders. So that to me was such a big standout thing. So graduated, I had a bunch of offers to go to work at some big banks in Seattle area, California, New York. I was in the works doing interviews and it just didn't feel right. It just didn't feel part of my path. And I just said, and then the pandemic hit and I was just like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to learn to trade. There's no other reason. I mean, if I fail, I fail. It doesn't really matter. Um, and I didn't really view it that way either. It's just like, I didn't really view like going into that I was going to fail. And I was like, I'm going to trade. It's just, how long it's going to take me to get this is ultimately what the curve is. So that's kind of like my history going into trading. But I have pictures. It's interesting. I have pictures of my first setup, in a dorm room with a little like lawn chair, and then progressing every single stage of my trading career until like now I have my own office and still progressing too. I'm still getting to the point where I'll eventually probably have my own studio regardless. Just it's interesting seeing the whole progression. I have pictures of everything, but
Well, it's
you know,
funny if we look back at your dorm room, we'd probably see like, you have some, lawn chair. All of a sudden, that's now a gaming chair, and then you
yeah.
have this little rickety table over here. Now it becomes a real coffee, and you can, see that progression of what comes out of the work that was being put in.
Yeah, so I mean, and then I have like a amazing setup. I have amazing computers. Everything around me is just, it's a dream for sure. So, I mean, the things around me obviously showed the progression I've made as well. But, I took that leap of faith. I didn't take those big positions. I have friends right now that are making, good money in those positions, and they still call me every now and then and just like try to recruit me, come back, we need you, or what have you. I get those calls all the time, but they're like, let me manage your money, and it's interesting. I kind of laugh about it now, but um,
Let me manage your money.
yeah, and it's all right, okay. Look, that's another story, but it's just always funny. It's just looking back and reflecting that this was the riskier road to take, and I took it with full faith, and I think I'm right here right now. Obviously, the things I do for ATC are really just to help others and show them like this methodology works. I mean, it's you know I don't even consider myself, when people ask me what I do, I don't really even bring up a marketing or student liaison or anything. Like I'm a day trader first. The rest is just a hobby when it comes down to it.
Yeah. So Lisa, talk to us about the beginning, your path in trading. When you
Yeah.
first started, your obstacles, and just, kind of give us an idea of what it was like. Because, it's so easy to look at someone that's successful now and think they just always were like that. So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about what, your beginning, what it was like actually having to learn this, especially going from a portfolio class in college, which you're not talking about trading whatsoever. Like you said, you're
Right.
talking about fundamentals, balance sheets, a completely different methodology in total. So it's not even anything to really bring in from that. So what was the
Yeah.
beginning of your trading career like?
A mess. I mean,
That's probably the nine out of 10 people that you ask that question to, that's probably going to be the answer.
I didn't get up, jump, running off to success. If anything, I fell 10 feet under and I stood there for a while and I had to claw myself out. We've had
Mm.
some conversations about, these stages, especially at onsites that I've been to 3 onsites now, but the beginning stages were kind of miserable, honestly. Like it was just looking back at it now, it's the first year or two is the toughest part of your trading. And right now, I sit and look at my trading. I was like, this is not as difficult now because obviously I know everything in terms of like methodology wise. Now it's just me against me. But in the beginning, it was me against me and me against this methodology. Having a proper methodology and understanding it. So I would take the 1 through 4 trades without really truly understanding anything. I was trading options with it. Which is obviously not part of the methodology of trading options, trying to day trade options while trying to tape read. I was trading, the same few stocks every now and then, the FANG stocks, the larger cap stocks. I just didn't have a proper approach. And I was trying to make money while I was learning. That was the biggest mistake for me. If I'd go back, I think it's interesting because trying to make money in the beginning, put me so much further away from actually making money, which is interesting. So in the beginning, I would have
So
gone back and I would have
contradicting.
just
You
not.
get into trading to make money, and then when you now you're into trading, and now you can't think about money yet.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's not an easy thing to do.
So that part was just the learning part was just I recommend not going out, full try to make money when you're initially starting. It just won't work. You need to be tested, and it's just that you have to create a database of you and how you trade, and you have to have a back tested methodology, and you have to have great psychology, and you have to have screen time. But overall, like the beginning of my trading, the biggest obstacles was try to make money during the learning period, and that's really what I would say was the toughest part. And also just not utilizing the resources, not sending in traders exchange questions, not utilizing the veteran traders around me. Just I would think
Being part of a community, almost still trying to do it yourself.
yeah, I mean that's my personality, is always trying to do it myself. So not being part of a community, not asking the right questions, and not journaling too in the beginning was just awful. I wouldn't journal, and also failing. I think, my personality, I've never truly failed as much as I have until I faced trading, like through school and anything. I always excelled in absolutely everything. I never faced failure like I have with trading, and especially in the beginning. And that just set me up to be a completely different person. It changed who I am. Like the person I was before trading, the person I am now is completely different. I don't view failure the same. Like going into it, I viewed failure personally. It would hurt me, like mentally, physically, and emotionally. It was just personal. And at the end of the day, it's just not personal. It's I'm so much more process focused and data driven, and I'm just so back tested with my strategy and just understanding that those failures are going to come. And I think just approaching failure in a light, that it opens up the opportunity for you to see what mistakes that you're making that can turn into the biggest areas of opportunity for yourself. And it reflects in every aspect of life, not just trading. So trying to make money learning phase, and then viewing failure as opportunity, and as lights into areas of opportunity of growth.
I feel like failure is a very strong word because really, do you ever fail until you quit?
I mean, some people, I don't know, other people, everybody defines it differently, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept to kind of think about because you didn't fail, you had unsuccessful attempts,
Yeah.
but you never really failed. And it's an interesting point to kind of think about is that what is really failure? Failure would be closing your account and losing a bunch of money, and that's the end of it. But
Yeah.
really, it was your journey.
Yeah. I mean, all the scars I have are, have led me to be the trader I am today. So, I think just mainly having a different perspective on just understanding that those, setbacks are setting me up to truly get to where I want to be, really.
Mhm. Yeah, almost learning experiences.
Yeah.
When
And
it
I think
comes to it.
that's the most interesting one is, you have to be, and what's what we call screen time. Like screen time is such an interesting concept and word, but really what is screen time? You can sit there and watch things, but ultimately you have to be very, very invested mentally, physically, and emotionally into your setups and what you're trading, and then you have to analyze them and journal. And I think journaling is such an underrated thing as well. I see it in a lot of people. People will message me like, "Hey, what did this mean to do?" And I said, "Give me your journal, give me your game plan. And if you don't have that, then I'm not. I simply cannot help you. If you can't
Yeah.
help yourself, I can't help you."
It's like running a business without financials. You
Yeah,
just can't do it.
And I can't stress that enough. I know you've always been advocate of it, but at the end of the day, the reason where I am at this current moment is because I have notebooks of journals, and I go back and I can see the progression from one to the one I have now, and it's just night and day. I journal in many facets and forms, like written, spoken. The video breakdowns I do. I mean, they're great, and I get explained to people, but also, that's a verbal journal for myself.
It's ingraining it.
Yeah. So,
Let me ask you something. What are some of the biggest milestones that
Mhm.
you've accomplished throughout your trading?
this was an interesting one, because obviously I got these questions beforehand. This is one that I thought on the most. Biggest milestone, I can't pinpoint one moment where I'm just like, aha, this is everything.
Not that one light bulb moment.
No, I mean, maybe it happened for some people, but it never happened for me. For me, it was chipping away every single day. It's like climbing a mountain, and every single day I would just keep going and going and going. And then eventually, like, you just look back in situations like this where I'm doing an interview and you see how far up the mountain you've come. And I've come up the mountain very, very far, and I still have a long ways to go. But I just think the thought process and mentality and process I have now is just setting me up for further success down the road to be able to navigate that, mountain of trading a lot quicker and faster. So it's not just one moment, of milestone, but I think what stands out to me is just, my ability to pull up any stock in the market and just look at the tape and be like, that's a high percentage trade. There's nothing here, or
Mm.
I'm waiting for a setup. It's just like my ability to pull up the confidence I have to pull up a trade, and with my process. And even if I get shaken out, I can sit there and be like, accept it because it's part of the business. I define my percentages and absolutely everything.
Risk
So
versus reward was there.
it's just the confidence I have to be able to pull up something. And that's something I never had before, in the
Hmm.
past couple of years. Because I've been trading for, I don't know, 3 years now. Probably just this like last year or year and a half, truly when I've started to develop and take off. But I just think it's, not one single point, but, just the stage I'm at right now, being able to answer anybody's question in terms of a trade, being able to outline exactly what high percentage trade needs to look like. I think just being able to really truly answer all of my questions. But so not just one specific instance or, moment. It's been this moment right here where I'm just reflecting and looking back. And maybe that's, for someone out there listening too, that they haven't had their moment. It's just maybe it takes some reflecting, looking back down that hill to really realize where you have gone, have came to really progress to that next level.
So you mentioned that you've been trading for about 3 years. So about a year and a half, for year to year and a half is really when you start to see this growth that's been coming into your trading. For the newer type traders out there, what do you think two things, if you had to name two things during your learning phase that got you to that over that hump to get to this success in the past year and a half year? But what would you think two things are that a newer trader cannot go without in order to get to that point?
I'm gonna go with some basic ones here, and then I'm gonna dive into some more deeper concepts. But one would be okay, journaling, right? But how interactive are you with your journals? Not just writing on a piece of paper and putting it away. How often are you reviewing them? Really being interactive with journals, posting journals on our chat room, bringing them to our night reviews. Journaling. It's evident that the journals I had early on and the journals I have now are vastly different, and they attribute to the current success in each state. Right? My early on journals were awful. They were just prints, trigger down. That's it.
Things you'd find in your trade manager.
Yeah. And now I look at my journals and they're very, very in depth about a game plan before I even take a trade. It's just, looking at all these variables, quick just thought and breakdown is just like, okay, psychological level, are they building, are they not building, triggers, risk to reward ratios, all that just comes so quickly now to me. And it's all, if I look at my journals now and back then, it's obviously reflective of the current success I'm having. So I would say like there's no option. If you're not journaling every single day, you're not doing yourself you're doing yourself a disservice. And at that point, maybe you should reflect and really see if this is for you and if this is what you're going to do, because if not, you're just going to float, and nobody wants to do that. So that's kind of
Mhm.
the basic one. And then the two is be obsessed. And I know you say it as well, but
Mhm.
obsessed is
Sentiment
different for
toxic.
everyone.
I've
Yeah.
ruined relationships over it.
Well, I have too. I mean, I've lost great friends in the process of it, and the ones that truly, support you will always stick around. But that's, personal life. That's not, that's no
Mhm.
here nor there. That's not trading wise. But obsessed in the fact where, I would sit in coffee shops in the afternoons for hours at a time. People in the coffee shops knew me by name. They knew my order, and my seat was always there. No one was sitting in my seat in the afternoon because I was there, and I was there every day at that moment in the hour. And I was obsessed. And I brought my laptop. I would listen to classes over and over and over again. 2 to 3 hours of classes every single day outside of market hours. I would sit there, analyze, and study, and that was just obsessed. And that's what I attribute to a lot of the current success now is you have to pay it in full. You can't. There's no skipping chapters in trading. You have to pay every single stage in full. And if you
Not a
don't,
get quick scheme.
and you can't fake it either. You truly can't fake it. This market will expose you in every facet, an aspect. And if you're not ready for it, then I mean, it's a tough world when it comes to this world that we play in, or we have this game that we base our careers off of. But be obsessed and pay it in full, and
You being
whatever
in
that.
Washington, your market closes at 1 p.m., right?
Yeah, so I mean that's the thing with me is
You
I'm
have
up
the
at
whole day now to be
Mhm.
obsessed.
So I'm up at 5 a.m. Market opens at 6:30, done at 1, and then I would go spend an hour working out just to mentally be able to get those study sessions in, and then after that I spend the whole afternoon studying, and I would do that all the time. I don't necessarily do it as much now. I think more now it's me doing like breakdown videos and night shift reviews and things like that. But I paid it in full. I don't have to go back and do that anymore because I'll sit there and watch the class, and I'll be like, okay, well, I can pause the trade, I can mute you, and I can break down exactly the way you break it down. And it's just that's the point I've gotten now. It's not
So you
that
paid your dues, you put the
yeah,
work in. That's
paid
what
in
happens.
full.
It gets
Yeah.
easier and easier.
Exactly. And then another one, this is kind of a third one, but talk to veteran traders. I'm not, maybe I'm a veteran trader. I don't know. I'm definitely progressing to that stage, but um, you know, Rich, Doug, Nitesh, those have been around for quite a while and are seasoned. Well, that's all a veteran trader is you're seasoned. You have, every situation and setup you've seen, whether that's, psychology within yourself or the market. So just ask the questions for those who've been there and truly just seek out the information because you're not alone. I mean, I've been through it, and I know you've been through it, Rich. So just seek out, the community, and I think that's the fastest way to growth. And you'll see too, it's a trait. You'll see traders who are constantly posting whatever the journals or breaking trade breakdowns, and you'll see their progression move a lot quicker than others. And at the end of the day, there's no excuses behind that. If you don't bring what content or questions or review, that's on you, and that's just the hard truth.
You
It's
know,
just facts.
there's absolutely no question. And it's interesting too that you talk about a veteran trader because it's not just about trading. Being a veteran trader also means you've probably seen a lot of traders throughout the course of your time.
Yeah,
So even talking to them, even the emotional aspect of things, it's not just about trades. They more than likely they've not only went through it, but seen hundreds of people do it, the same way as well. So, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Having a community is invaluable. It really is because it gives you the opportunity to talk to people that are where you want to be that have crossed down that road in the first place.
exactly. Overcame the same obstacles that you're currently faced with.
So if you had to take the success that you found in your trading and attribute it to one thing, what would it be? What's the way, if you had to put and I know this is like an impossible question,
Mhm.
but if you had to take the success that you found within being able to be a tape reader, what would you attribute it to?
Huh. I think it comes down to one quote. This is a quote I wrote myself, and it was along my, trading career. And it goes like this: If you knew with 100% certainty that your path will lead to your dreams, you would have the passion and joy through every obstacle. You would work endlessly without stress or fear of failure. And that 100% is called faith. And I think just the one attribute is the fact that I have faith in my abilities and my skills to accomplish my dreams. And my dream is to be able to become a professional day trader. It's just the faith in myself. If you come in the market and you don't have the faith and trust in yourself and your journey, then I think that needs some work and to be defined.
Very, very interesting. Because I mean, not for nothing, but if you're gonna work for yourself, you got to bet on yourself, right?
Yeah, it's a riskier route. If you're gonna take the
All
risky
right.
road, might
So
as well go full into it.
yeah, well, I mean, that's it. It's, to take, put your toes in the pool. It doesn't work that way. It's either you
No.
got to be all in or you're not really in. You
Yeah.
might be able to eventually learn 10 years from now, but if you really dive into it, that's when you go, a year, 2 years, 3 years. And then as you said, all that work that you have to put in, you don't have to keep putting in that same work. Once you learn it, you learn it.
Yeah.
So if you were talking to somebody that's brand new at tape reading, what would some of the advice that you would give them that's looking to go into being a trader?
Yeah.
Someone that's brand new, and even if it's not tape reading, what would be the advice that you would give someone that's brand new looking to get into trading?
First of all, I would say it is tape reading. I could follow. I mean, there's no other. I mean, this is the foundation of the market, supply and demand. At the end of the day, this is by far, in my opinion, the greatest methodology because we're not following the chart. The chart can be deceiving many times, and we experience that daily. So, in my opinion, I mean, this methodology is top tier, and honestly, this is the end game methodology. But in terms of like some advice or tidbits. Every single path of successful trader, they leave clues in their trail, right? It's a trail up the mountain, and every single successful trader leaves clues. So, dive into your journals, and I think every single stage of your journey on that trail is going to look different, and your journals are going to look vastly different. So you can reflect and analyze that data. So, and the process doesn't change; it's the same. I mean, we have different personalities, but to be a successful tape reader and elite trader, the journey is it's one direction. There's many paths to that direction, but it's the same tip of the mountain. And there's clues, and a lot of those clues are within this community. And you see successful traders, you see successful students, and I would just say, find the proper community, find the proper methodology, and just stick with it. And eventually, if you have the faith and you have the right discipline and work ethic, you'll achieve it.
Okay. All right, Dave. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure learning your story. And I mean, your answers just absolutely phenomenal. So for everyone that's watching right now, Dave, at 8 p.m. each night, does what's called a night shift review. It is available for anyone for free. The link is posted each day, about a half hour before. And what happens is we allow our traders to come in with a recording of their trades and we analyze them. It's basically a free coaching session for anyone that anyone would like to have one. So definitely make sure that you check that out. Also, the ATC Insiders chat room is where we are for the entire day, going over not only education but actual trading. So, Dave, it was again an absolute pleasure, and we will talk soon.
Yeah, thanks for this interview. Appreciate it.